Prior military? Yes, I am prior military. That was fast. Morning, everybody. I'm just doing finishing work at the shop this morning. I got to cord up a couple of steaks. I got a bunch of yawara palm sticks to cord up. But yeah, Ohio gozaimasu. But yeah, I was Marine Corps. Thank you. I hope you have a good day too. For anybody who's new to the chat, I run a shop called Warrior Wood and Props. And on Sundays, I just go live while I'm doing my finishing work because it's really boring to me. And it gives me somebody to talk to while I'm doing this stuff. All right, now I'm cording up 2 vampire steak handles, and then I've got a bunch of yawara I have to cord up. And for some reason, this jute cord is especially kinky this morning. Not sure why. I mean kinky in the non-sexual sense. I think I may have started this handle a little higher than normal, but I think that's all right. I actually measured once the distance from the outside of the chest to the heart. And if you ever want to know what that is, on average, it's 6 inches. So you need at least 6 inches of stabbing point on a stake to reach a vampire's heart. So I always try to make sure, if I'm making vampire steaks, that at least 6 inches or more are available to reach the heart. It's a detail that no one will ever notice, probably, but me. And maybe the people on this chat. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Am I going to suitcase this? I'm not quite sure I understand the question. If your question is, am I going to put it in a suitcase? The answer would be no. It's going to go in my inventory and sell on my shop. Unless suitcase is code for something and I don't know what it is. Which is entirely possible. What inventory? So I run a shop called Warrior Wood and Props. I make vampire steaks, martial arts gear, practice swords for Hema and Boo-Hurt, and I also make cosplay props. I make con-safe weapon props like plastic and rubber sai. I make con-safe plastic and foam nunchucks. Just stuff that looks as real as possible, but at the same time, you're not going to get in trouble getting into a convention with it. Because these days, you can't really bring actual weapons into conventions. So I try to make props that you can get into conventions with. All right, that's one steak down. I can fray off the tassel here. There we go. There we go. We got one steak down, one to go, and then I'll start cording up the yawara, which are fun. Yawara, a lot of people ask me what that is. Some people call them palm sticks. You cord the center there, and it's an anchor for your two fingers, and it's used as an augmentation of your fist. It's very common in Shotokan karate. There are also some Filipino martial arts that do it. They use the palm stick. Most people these days know them as kubotans because Tak Kubota back in the day invented a self-defense keychain based on the yawara called a kubotan. Where am I from? That's an interesting question. I was born in a small town in Oklahoma called Yukon, Oklahoma. It is the home of Garth Brooks, which is hilarious because Garth Brooks says it's not his hometown, but Yukon claims him anyway. They went all in on Garth Brooks back in the 80s and 90s. They put it on the water tower. They put it down a sign next to the highway. Welcome to Yukon, home of Garth Brooks. But I left there when I was 10 years old and haven't really been back since. Like, I've visited a few times, but I haven't lived there in a long time. I moved to Southern California, lived in Southern California for a while, lived in Northern California for a while, then moved to Texas when I was about 13. Stayed there for a while. Then I was in New Mexico for a little bit. Went back to Texas. I joined the Marine Corps and kind of went all over. Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time with the where am I from question because I don't really feel that I'm from Yukon, Oklahoma, because I really only spent a little bit of my life there. I'm currently in Florida, but I've moved around so much. I don't know. I don't really feel like I'm a native anywhere. This right now, I am making a vampire steak. Actually, it's already made. I'm just doing the handle on it. And then I've got some yawara palm sticks I'm going to cord up. I sell a lot of different kinds of steaks in my shop. I've got simple ones like this. I've got fancy ones. I've got wood daggers that I make out of oak and hickory. I've got vampire hunter swords that are made from wood. I've got one that's really cool. It's a double-ended vampire hunter sword made out of purple heart. It is pretty. It's very pretty. And very, very sharp. I make all kinds of weird stuff. I make custom battle bats for people. I actually just made one recently. It's on the shop right now called the No Brainer. It's a baseball bat with the two halves of a table saw blade embedded in the side. It's construction orange with No Brainer in black, reverse stenciled on each side. Pretty fun. And I also make, Negan bats. Every now and then somebody wants a Negan bat, but everybody and their mom's making those these days. The Lucille's, the barbed wire baseball bats. And they make them for cheaper than I can because they mass produce them. Everything I do is handmade, so my stuff's a little more expensive. So I don't get a lot of orders for the Negan bats anymore now that so many places are mass producing them. Unless somebody just wants it like a very specific way. Every now and then I'll get a custom order for one. And please forgive me for using my teeth, but I only have two hands. So it's hard to do this sometimes. All right, there we go. And that's our Second vampire steak done. All right, now we're gonna move on to the yawara. These are oak. This is what's called a long reach yawara because you have a longer end on one side. So this can be used to hit. It can be used to do wrist locks. It can be used to trap weapons, things like that. So I'm gonna do this next. Oh, looks like my lighter's dead. Guess time for another one. So I feed the cord through the holes here. And for these long ones, I try to make sure the cord holes are super tight. And then just knot the ends. There we go. And I leave enough on here, depending on, everyone's got different sized hands. So I try to leave enough of the cord so that they can undo the knots and fit it to their hand once they get it. Oh, thank you. I enjoy making weapons. I've been doing it since I was a kid. But anyway, so the anchor cord makes it where, when you're using small sticks, it's real simple, real easy to get them to slip out of your hands. So the anchor cord makes it where no matter what you do, it's you're not going to drop it. Ha 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 ha. Very funny, Dr. Idiot. I don't use it on my boyfriend. No, it's not a butt plug. Good times. We got an interesting group this morning. And now these are used in Shotokan karate for the most part, but like I said, a lot of martial arts use them now. The story behind yawara, actually, the story behind a lot of karate weaponry or kobudo weaponry is kind of interesting to me. There's a really nice book out there called Shotokan's Secret that I read a while back that talks about the history of karate. And in Okinawa, in a long time ago, the Japanese had occupied the island during the time of the samurai and the shogunate, and there was a group called the Shurite who were in charge of protecting the Okinawan royal family, because they did have a royal family before the Japanese showed up, and they were forbidden from carrying weapons. Well, it's hard to be a bodyguard who can't carry a weapon, so they came up with all kinds of things that weren't technically weapons that they learned to use as weapons. Yeah, so you don't lose it in the butthole. Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Idiot. Appreciate it. So now I'm going to paracord up these smaller yawara. So this one here is Padauk. This is a slightly smaller one. This is 7 inches. This is the more traditional design where you have two ends that stick out evenly from the palm. How many coffees should you drink in a day? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, my friend. I know I drink like this. This is how much I drink in a day. Whatever's in here, that's what I drink each day. So I don't know. I also have rampant ADHD though, so coffee doesn't quite affect me the same way. Oh no. Stupid 550 cord. Sometimes it doesn't melt off the way it's supposed to. All right, here, let's fix this. You got to get the 550 cord has multiple strands inside of it. So when you melt off the ends, you got to make sure that the outside has merged with the inside. Otherwise, the inside strands will come out. So there we go. It is not a good way to break your hand, honestly. I've practiced. I have a 3rd-degree black belt in Shotokan, and honestly, taking one of these to the temple is very painful, and also taking it to the interior of the wrist. But no, these are actually great as fist packs. If you know what you're doing when you punch, it actually reinforces your punch. And these ends here, if you're doing hammer fists, they're awesome for. Actually, these days, the #1 art form that uses these in Japan is called Koppojutsu. And Koppojutsu basically means like the art of bone breaking, which is exactly what it is. Their whole. Oh, I would say probably not well against a 45. They wouldn't stand up well at all. No, I would highly never recommend using a melee weapon against a firearm. That would probably not be a great idea. I think it's funny people always say that, like, how would that work against a gun? It wouldn't work against a gun. That's not what it's for. Who in their right mind comes at somebody with a palm stick who's got a 45? That would be really, really stupid. That's a good way to get shot in the face. You guys are funny. And these here are pocket yawara. This is Purple Heart. It's a yellow, or not Purple Heart, Yellow Heart, sorry. It's a really strong yellow wood. It lasts a long time because it's bug resistant. It doesn't decay. I try to use woods like that for my yawara so they last a long time, especially for my pocket yawara. Stuff like Purple Heart, Yellow Heart, Okome. I used to do black walnut. I still have some black walnut on my shop available in yawara, but I can't make those anymore because walnut's got this stuff in it called juglone that if you're exposed to it too much, it can cause respiratory problems, and I got exposed to it too much, so now I can't work with it. So there's our yellow one. I got 3 more of those to do. Yes, I do. I do sell these. My shop is warriorwoodandprops.com. You can also find me on eBay, same name, Warrior Wood and Props. I sell all kinds of weird shit. You can, if you go to my channel, you'll see videos, but there should be a link in my bio to the shops. But yeah, I sell all this stuff. Otherwise, my house would be full of all these things. Actually, I should say my shop's inventory room would be overflowing with stuff because I make about a dozen items a week. And if I don't sell them, juglone. Juglone is a, that's what somebody asked what I got exposed to. Juglone is a chemical that's in walnut, black walnut specifically. And I think it's in all walnut though, but that's what I was working with. And it's toxic. It's only kind of an irritant for humans for the most part, but you don't want to breathe it. But I developed a sensitivity to it. It's absolutely fatal to horses, by the way. Like ranchers will actually scout their properties for any walnut trees, and if they find them, they will destroy them because a horse can literally, or cows, either one, can literally like touch a walnut tree root with their hoof, and it will poison them and eventually kill them. So yeah, black walnut's not super safe to work with. It is toxic. The wood itself is fine. But the sawdust is where the problem comes in, because the juglone, which is a chemical in the wood, becomes airborne once it turns into sawdust, and you breathe that in and it poisons you basically. So I mean, I wear a respirator, I have 2 air scrubbers in the shop and all that stuff, but eventually, um it gets on your skin. It get you just there's just no way to not get somewhat exposed to it. Would you? No, I would not. I would not invest in that. I don't invest in AI or crypto. But yeah, the safety tip, kids: if you're gonna work with wood, make sure you have a really good respirator. When I was growing up, nobody who worked with wood wore respirators, and honestly, in the beginning of my career, when I first started doing woodworking in my 20s, I didn't wear a respirator. So I probably should have, but back then, no one told you that you needed to wear one. Uh, these days, yeah, I wear a respirator. I run 2 air scrubbers. I do everything I can to minimize the amount of sawdust that's in the air in my shop, because you do not want to breathe that stuff. They use formaldehyde and all kinds of stuff to preserve wood. Do I think Muhammad Ali is the greatest boxer of all time? I would say Muhammad Ali was the greatest boxer of his time. And I'll tell you why. Because boxing has evolved over the years. Back then, a knockout was really more what was expected. And as time went on, boxers learned it was more beneficial to win on a scorecard than it was to win with a knockout, because knockouts require you to put yourself in a lot more jeopardy in a fight. Whereas, if you dance around the ring and score points, you're still going to win the same way and not take nearly as much brain damage. Except for guys like Mike Tyson. If Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali fought, that would be interesting. If they had fought in their prime anyway, not these days, it would be a corpse versus an old guy. We probably don't want that. But, but like Tyson was amazing, because Tyson had really like one trick that he used to win fights. And it was a great trick. He would lean in on his opponents, get them to lean in towards him. And then at the last, just like when he was ready, he let off that weight and they'd lean forward and he'd come up underneath and uppercut him in the chin. That worked great for him until other fighters started figuring it out. Then he kind of lost his shit and started biting people's ears off because the same old trick wasn't working anymore. All right, this is my last yawara. This is okome. This is mostly a yawara that I sell for people to use for kata and forms use. It's a very, very light wood. It's not super strong. It's not weak, but it's definitely not as strong as like Purple Heart or Padauk or even oak. But it works really well for forms and kata practice. You're less likely to harm your opponent if you make a mistake while you're practicing with it. One of these days I'm going to try to come up with like a sparring yawara where it's like padded and you can actually use it without doing damage if you make contact. But haven't gotten around to that yet. Yeah, I think so. Mike Tyson, I think the problem for him was that, he had a really good trainer who cared about him. And when he died, even before he died, Tyson, he got surrounded by people who were just looking to make a quick buck and take advantage of him. And it happens to a lot of people. And unfortunately for him, it definitely effed his career up, and also his own behavior, because he was doing a lot of cocaine, and he still is, I think. But you know drugs will mess anybody up. Doesn't matter who you are. All right, so there's my Okome. Iron Bite Tyson. Yeah, I know. The bite thing was so weird for Mike Tyson. It was very odd for sure. I just remember when I saw that happen the first when I was watching that fight. As at first I didn't know what had happened. He saw Holyfield jerk away from him and holding his ear, and I'm like, what just happened? And then they showed the replay on slow mo, and I was like, oh, he bit his ear. Then he did it again. Yeah, it was crazy. That was not a great decision. And then poor Tyson, came out of retirement to do the fight with what's his name. I'm not a real fan of him, so I can't remember his name. He's a cocky little guy. He fought Jake Paul too. I can't remember what his name is. Anybody remember? What's up, Peckerwood? I don't know what's up with you, man. Well, anyway, folks, that is all I had to get finished up today. I gotta go pack everything up and get ready to head home and put the new stuff up on the shop. I got a few new items that are coming to the shop this week. So anyway, thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye.